from up to down, how do you say?
Downward.
Downward, yes, downward. And again I write next to it, Hineni, comma, my son. And all the lawyers in this room say you don't make a contradicting commitment to two persons, to two parties. If you are totally devoted to God, how can you say Hineni to your son? And maybe the son said, Hineni means whatever you ask for me, I will do. And the son says, I want back to mother. So he says, oh no, I didn't mean Hineni. Understand. How can you say Hineni to a son whom you have to sacrifice? Here you have the answer whether Abraham loved his son or not. The deep answer in the language, in the hidden language of an interior catchword, leading word. Abraham knows that he will ask difficult questions because this is the role of children. You know, children ask us the worst questions. Mommy, why, father, why do you say in this income tax return that you are older than you are? What do you do? Yes. You know, simple question. So Abraham is prepared to this question. So what could he say if he doesn't want to get the question? Sorry, son, I'm busy. Don't you see that we are going to a holy place? I'm saying Psalms, I'm saying Tehillim. How dare you interrupt me? Or if you would be a university professor, would say, I'm writing an article, what is holier than this? Later I will answer to you. If this would have been the case, Yitzchak would be orphanized before he would be sacrificed. He would go alone to the Akedah. And this is something which is unacceptable to Abraham Avinu. He says, no, you deserve a father. And your father is with you. Please say whatever you want to ask me, ask. I'm your father, I'm here, I'm with you. Hineni. You have to be very courageous to say Hineni to different parties which are potentially contradictory. And then Yitzchak says, Hine ha'esh v'ha'etzim v'ayeh ha'seh la'olah. Here's the wood, here's the fire, but where is the sheep for the sacrifice? Which means, and in my modern terms, dear father, I understand why you didn't take a sheep, a goat from Beersheba to Yerushalayim. It's very difficult to convince the animal to walk these 80 kilometers. So I was sure we arrive at the old city, you buy a sheep. But you didn't. Father, something is wrong with our story. Here's the wood, here's the fire, but where is the sheep? Which means what you understand. That he thinks maybe I'm the goat, maybe I'm the victim. But there is something additional dimension to this question. We clever readers know that there are three things there. Ha'esh, va'etzim, va'ma'achelet. The fire, the wood, and the cleaver. So why doesn't Yitzchak mention the knife? So you ask Sigmund Freud and he answers you. He doesn't dare. But Abraham Avinu knew psychology. You believe this or not? For sure he knew psychology. So Abraham is, how do you say, some level, realizing that the child does not dare to mention the knife, which shows for sure that he knows what the answer to his question. It's not only a very clever question of a child, it is also a telling question because it doesn't mention the cleaver. Now place yourself in the place of Abraham Avinu. What should he answer? I give you time by drinking. There are two opposite ways which are wrong ways to deal with such a question of children. One radical wrong mode of dealing with it is you are too young that I can't explain to you. Wait till you are 60, I will explain to the Akedah. Which most parents do. Sexual questions, economic questions, you are too young. He is not young enough to question, so why is he young enough to get the answer? This is a horrible way to evade a serious confrontation, which we call in biblical terms, hineni. The opposite way is also very wrong, is to say children have the same rights and understanding as adults, and you don't hide anything from children. They want to see blue pictures in the movie, you can't. They have their rights. You cannot prevent them. Children are with full rights, right? If a child asks you a question, you tell him the truth. Tell him the truth? You are the sheep, my dear son? Impossible. So what is the right way to deal with such questions, which all of you know? It's to reveal to a child whatever he can grasp at this moment of his development. And the grown-up has to make an assessment. What can he understand and what can he take? It's not a mental understanding. What his psyche can take and what his psyche cannot take. I believe this is what Avraham Avinu is doing. It's a wonderful way of dealing with the problem. So we'll read it in Hebrew and then in English. Vayomer, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. No, it's the end of verse 8. ויאמר אברהם, אלוהים יראה לו עשה לעולה בני. וילכו שניהם יחדיו. And to my great regret, the translation is literal and you can't understand what the Hebrew means from this translation. So it says in English, and Abraham said, God will see, Elohim yir'eh lo, the sheep for the offering, my son. What does it mean, God will see? And in a footnote, the author writes, the meaning of see, I didn't change the word see because it's a guiding word, and the root to see is very important in the story. So I translated it literally, but the meaning is provide. And this is the way they translated in the good old King James Version and till the new JPS. And it's a wrong translation. You imagine I and my son going to visit an old aunt of mine. And there's a stairway, my bright son says, but father, where is the present for the aunt? And I say, don't worry, the aunt herself will provide the present. What kind of an answer is this? You know why people made this grave mistake? They knew the end of the story. Abraham doesn't know the end of the story. In the end of the story, God really provides the ram. So they destroy the story, make Abraham into a prophet. He's not a prophet in this story. If he would be a prophet, he would say, oh, it's a happy ending, I don't have to care. You understand? He's not a prophet. He's a regular person. And he doesn't know that God will provide. So poor readers who don't know Hebrew, they are misled. God will provide. Now, the word to see is very difficult in this context. So a biblical scholar who is interested in biblical narrative opens the concordance and says there must be a different meaning for the verb ra'o, for the verb to see, which fits this context. And sure enough, I find that to see in the Bible occurs some 10 times with the meaning of choose. It says, God says to Shmuel, go to Bethlehem and anoint one of the children of Yishai, because I saw a among his children the future king. What do you mean I saw? I chose. Or a stronger verse, Yitro says to Moshe, אתה תחזה מכל העם אנשיך חיל. You will see among the people proper judges. What do you mean we will see? You will choose. Now, insert the word choose here in the story, and it says, dear son, it is God who chooses the sacrifice. But he says it in future terms. God will choose the sacrifice, my son. And this is a second lie, excuse me. He knows exactly whom God has chosen. But he doesn't want to impose the full truth on the head of the small child. So he says, dear Yitzchak, you have to understand. Sacrifices to God are highly demanding. If God would have asked me what I want to bring as a sacrifice, I would say, take all my herds, but not my son. But the choice is not in my hands. The deep meaning of the Akedah is, says Abraham to his son, that God will choose the proper sacrifice. And just as you don't know, I still don't know. Which means it could be me, it could be you, it could be a ram. So he's telling him the inner core of the Akedah without terrifying him by saying, we humans don't know the whole story, but we know that it is in the hands of God to choose what he wants from us. It's a very difficult statement to make, but this is the inner meaning of religiosity. And then it says, now they again go together, but it is a true harmony, which means that Abraham was able with his answer, which is a very deep answer, respectful of the ability of the child and the limitations of the child. Now the child is satisfied that he's going to the Akedah with a true father, and they're going together. We are very happy about this development, and we see how the Torah is addressing the issue of whether Abraham is only an obedient servant or also a model of a father. Now they arrive at Har Moriah, and the story becomes more and more tense. ויבואו אל המקום אשר אמר לו האלוהים, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויעקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל העצים, וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. Verse 9. And the two of them went together, and they came to the place that God has said to him. And Abraham built there, you see, he does everything by himself, his own hands. Abraham built there an altar and laid out the wood and bound Yitzchak, his son. La'akod is to bind. And he bound his son and placed him, he raised him and placed him on the altar, on the top of the wood. And Abraham reached out his hand and took the cleaver to slaughter his son. So we'll now have to say, I consulted my watch, I see that I have to hurry up, so we'll do it in a less intensive way. Abraham is doing everything himself. Why is he binding him? This is a good question. Does it mean that he doesn't trust him? Does it mean that he is afraid that he will run away? So in the temple we know that they would bind the